Hello, welcome to Shave and Butcher. I shave with straight razors and I'm learning how to hone these, how to put a good edge on a straight razor. And I thought it would be fun to see if it's possible to put a shaving edge on an axe. This is from Hultafors, Hultsbruk in Sweden, Swedish steel, and when you hone a straight razor, it's a lot easier because the straight has a spine that is obviously wider than the edge, and you simply put the spine onto the stone and you go back and forth, and eventually hopefully you've got a decent edge. You don't have to worry about the angle, which is quite different to an axe, where I need to find my own angle in putting a bevel on the axe, which is what we'll try and do first. This is brand new. I have other axes, but I wanted to buy a new one, and I thought that would be easier because I thought the grind or the bevel would be set already, and I could just gradually polish it up on different grit stones and get to something you can shave with. But the problem here is that this bevel is not going to work in the slightest. It's off center, it's hard to see, but one side has a more acute angle than the other side. The bevel is not straight, so it's wiggly. So I have to create the bevel, and by doing that, the key to success, I think, is going to be two things. One is finding the right angle, and two, to keep that angle all the way through the hone. I don't know if it's going to work, but we'll find out. I'm starting off on a diamond plate. This is a 350 grit plate. See if we can make this work. It was too much work. I gave up trying to put a bevel on this one with just the diamond plate. So I took a file and I started filing a bevel. And it's a lot of steel. Jesus Christ, it was so crooked. It's not easy to put to make sure you've got the right angle. So what I try to make it level, but what I do to check me out is I take the diamond plate and I do a bit of that, and then I see where it polishes the steel and where it doesn't. But just to make sure I'm not making anything crazy crooked. So we'll be doing this for a while, but as long as it's working, we're okay. Okay, so for you that was a second. For me it was quite a while. Ooh, there's been a lot of steel removed. By the way, when I put the axe on the table, I have a clamp to hold it in place, otherwise you can't work and you get into trouble. Okay, so I filed off a lot of metal. So I have half a bevel, which resembles something like decent, and that was done with a file, and I took the diamond plate to sort of check it. I was all happy, and then I looked at it and I remember why I never use files. So it's polished and everything, but I don't know if you can see, but it's rounded. So did I do all that in vain? I don't know. Hopefully I can correct it when I put the axe on the stone and hold the axe. I hope so. Anyway, that's half of it. Let's hope the other side isn't as cumbersome. I'm not gonna film a lot of this. I'm just gonna do it and we'll see where we end up. Okay, I've done both sides. This is side number 2. As you can see, the steel removed on this side is a lot more than on this side. That's probably bad, but my arms are tired. I'm never gonna hit the middle of the apex anyway, no matter how hard I try. But okay, I'm gonna give it a go. I'll continue on the diamond plate and see if we get anything interesting. Back and forth like I did in the beginning, and hopefully I can feel the bevel. Yeah, I think this is where the bevel is. Let's see. Now I had to remove the towel. There's quite a bit of force in this. I mean, compared to a straight razor where I use almost no force and I push it on the stone, I apply quite a bit of pressure here. I'm way out of my comfort zone since I have to find the angle myself. I mean, I hone kitchen knives, but that's a whole different ball game than this. I don't even know if I'm getting the entire edge. With the straight, you see if you're touching the whole edge because the water moves, and after a while the water moves on top of the steel. I mean, I'm pushing water away, but I really don't know if I'm doing the right thing. But I'll crack on and see what happens. Okay, well, it's sharp. Silly me. Silly me. I was trying to feel if it was sharp. And it was. That's a nice big hole. Okay, I'm gonna have to put a bit of tape on that. But I thought if I can hold this, see if at least it cuts paper. How do we do this? Yep, cuts paper, cuts thumbs as well. Oh dear. I'll be right back after some medical attention. It's important to know why you're doing something. If you're just repeating movements, counting strokes, etc., it's not going to work. You have to have a strategy. I don't, but you should have a strategy and a purpose. You know, picture yourself shaving with the thing while you're honing it. That's important. And so I'm not thinking I'm gonna I'm gonna do 10 laps on this side and 10 laps on the other side. I try to visualize what the stone is doing to the steel. What it appears I'm doing is making a little bevel. It's not like a second bevel, but yeah, almost like a second bevel by accident. But at least I'm getting the entire blade, except maybe a little bit at the top. But the steel was horrific. It was bent, so it was really hard to file that into something straight. But I'm missing a little bit there. I look at it in the reflection of the light. This one is all over the place. But it's better because that side was straighter. So I don't know. Am I done with the... Try not to cut myself. So it's pretty straight. It's pretty sharp. Maybe I'm done on this one. I'm gonna go to 1,000 grits and see if that makes a difference. So we know it cuts paper. It's a good start. Okay, so what I'm doing now is basically trying to remove the scratches that are still on the edge from diamond plate. Ooh, new angle, because this is slightly elevated, so I must find an angle that I can stick to and commit to. So this is a lot smoother. You can even hear how smooth it is. So do I have the same angle? I don't know. But basically just removing the scratches from the previous grind or the previous stone. It's impossible to keep the same angle. Really is difficult. But you have to believe in it. You have to believe you're doing the right thing. Sounds silly, perhaps, but it's important. I know that from honing razors. If you don't believe in it, if you don't know why you're making each movement, it's never gonna work. Now, probably won't work anyway, but we're having fun. We're bleeding. It was a pretty deep cut, actually. Okay, so you want to spend as much time on the stone on both sides, or an equal amount of time, I mean. So what you do on this stone is absolutely meaningless unless you did a good job on the previous one. And to be honest, I don't know. Usually, maybe I should have done that. Usually I use a loop. You can use a microscope as well. It's very important when you hone straight razors. At least for me, I'm lost without them. So you look at the blade, you see what you're doing, you see where it's lacking, and you keep track of scratch patterns as best you can. Now, what I also do, and I've learned this from the guy who taught me the little I know about honing, is I use a tomato. So I make cuts in it, and I see how easily it cuts. So it was already, if it cuts paper, it cuts tomatoes. So far so good. But basically, you should cut with less and less effort for every new stone that you use. Is that enough? Je ne sais pas. Very difficult to see on the edge. Let's do the tomato trick. See how easily it cuts the tomato. Oh. About the same as before. So did I do enough? I don't know. I do not know. Let's try the paper. Cutting paper is a bad idea because it actually dulls the edge. If anything, maybe it's more dull now. I'll spend some more time on this and then I'll change to the other side, which is 3000 grits. Okay, so 3000 grit stone. As we move up in progression to finer and finer material in the stones, all we're doing is removing the stuff left behind on the previous stone. So basically removing scratch marks from the 1000 grit stone. It cuts hair. I tried on my arm without cutting myself even. So it cuts hair, not easily, so nothing you can shave with. I thought that was pretty cool. So this is moving water in a good way. Essentially, if the edge is straight and keen, you move the water in front of the razor. One of the key things in honing I've learned is patience. I'm losing patience a little bit, which is dangerous. You have to be patient. You have to spend the time on the stones that your razor or axe requires. Very important. If you move on to the next stone too quickly, you're not gonna remove scratch marks from the previous stone to the extent that is necessary. And then it's pretty futile actually to move on to yet another stone. So you have to do your time on each stone. I'm trying to make sure that I get the entire edge, which means I have to focus on different parts of the edge. So now I will focus on the upper half. So I'm trying to feel in my fingers what the stone is doing to the steel. Sounds pretty new age, doesn't it? Look in the loop. I'll do some more time on this and then I'll be back with the next stone. Right, time for the 10,000 grit stone. And there's a dog over there. It's my dog. He may bark and he's loud. He likes to be on the table. Don't tell my wife he's on the table. Okay, bit of a slurry. So the axe is not as sharp as a razor would have been after. Did I say, I said 3,000 grits. It's actually 6,000. I have nothing in between, which is sometimes a problem, and it would have been nice to have something in between 1 and 6 today. I just don't have that. So from diamond plate to 1,000 grit to 6,000 grit to 10,000 grit. Okay, let's see. So this is fine dining, fine tuning. So again, what I'm attempting to do is to polish the scratch marks from the 6,000 grit stone, and that's all I'm doing. So, and that's not a cosmetic thing, that is actually what makes it sharper. Somehow, I don't know how. Don't ask me how. Ask me how many. Okay, gotta focus here. It's a bit of a Zen experience. Well, usually it is when you hone something you're actually used to. Less Zen today, more worry and what the hell am I doing? So you want to keep the stones wet. This one doesn't need to soak before you use it, but you have to keep it wet. So the slurry I'm making speeds up the honing process a bit. You don't have to make a slurry, you can use the stone just as it is, but again it takes a little while longer to do what you want to do. I forgot to look in the loop. You may be noticing I'm going a bit slower now. It's to really pay attention to what I'm doing. Oh, there we go. So a lot of my cuts when I hone knives and razors is from jumping when the dog does that. So he sees the street outside very well, and his job, he thinks, is to bark at anything that moves. So I was working from home today, and important business call, and all of a sudden he goes berserk. And it happens quite frequently. So you have to explain, someone came, and he's a guard dog, when in reality a leaf fell or something. Okay, so with every new stone and finer surface, there's less and less resistance. I don't know if you noticed, but there's a bit of black on the stone. That's metal that's being removed. So definitely this steel is a lot softer than a steel in a straight razor, because you don't see the metal as quickly. So maybe that's good. Je ne sais pas. If it was a straight, I would do more repetition. But generally less is more, and the less mocking about you do, the less room for error there is. Okay, let's do the tomato. You know, it feels less sharp than before. It probably isn't. Okay, I'll do a little bit more and then I'll contemplate whether or not we use a finishing stone. That's probably massive overkill. Well, maybe I'll do just for fun, so be right back. Okay, so overkill, but just for fun. This is a natural Japanese stone. It's called, God, I always forget. It's a very hard one. This one is to make a slurry. A lot of natural stones are softer than the medium you're using, so just like the diamond plate, the rubbing action releases material from the stone, and that makes the slurry. In this case, this is crazy hard, so the slurry I'm getting here is actually from this one, and it's all hocus pocus. And these natural Japanese whetstones are crazy expensive, so I only have a small one that costs a bit less, and it's because they're extinct, kind of. Hey, woof. Okay, so this stone is very small compared to my axe. This is mainly for video purposes. I don't know if this will have any effect whatsoever, but this is really, I'm not breaking it. This is really just polishing the edge. Oops. Oops is not something you want to hear when you handle sharp objects on expensive hardware. So on a straight razor, this actually makes a world of difference. It takes the razor from sharp enough to shave with to comfortable to shave with. Using this feels very, very unnatural. I'm not really sensing the same cutting action as I would on a straight, which is probably an indication that it's not as sharp as it should be. But who knows? Maybe this serves some kind of purpose. I'm trying to remember to use less and less pressure as I move up in progression. I forgot, so I pushed quite a bit. But this is this really should be just the weight of the axe. This almost feels silly, but I have it, and I would use it on a straight razor, So why not? Okay, a bit more. And then it's time for stropping. Stropping is important. It's still quite wobbly. This is such a stupid project. But I am having quite a bit of fun. Okay, let's do the other side, and maybe we call it a day. So this is not removing the water the way it should. Now, with the razor, if it's not sharp enough or smooth and comfortable enough, you would take it back to the stones. So we'll see. Okay, I'm gonna get a strop. I'll just try and figure out which bloody strop I'm gonna use. So I'll be back. I've decided to use a paddle strop. It's easier to manage. You either have one of these that you move the razor back and forth on, or you have a hanging strop, which is a piece of leather with a handle, and you keep it taut and you go back and forth. But I will attempt this. So stropping is important with the razor. It actually makes a world of difference. This is tricky. What this does is well, I actually don't know exactly, but it sort of straightens the metal out a bit. This is enormously uncomfortable. This handle is too long. Okay, so having to move a lot of stuff. I'm sure there is a better way. I just haven't thought this through. Now you want to go, unlike the stones, where you go towards the edge, on a strop you go away from the edge. Obviously, otherwise you cut the leather. This is a suede. I'm gonna do this 60, 80, 100 times, so I won't bore you, but basically I'll just keep doing this. Okay, stropping done. Hopefully it did some good. So this is the axe, and this is how this is how we honed it. Looks ridiculous. Looks pretty crap actually, in terms of edges, but we shall see. Next up, shaving, but that's for another video. Bye now.